behind the door. Then in Centerville, they said, we're going to hire more police. They're going to start going up and down the alleyways. There's going to be a curfew for kids in this town at 9 o'clock at night. And any window peeper would take shotguns to them. Then, early in January of 1923, George N. MacDonald drove into this town in a black Lexington Minuteman 6. He got out of his car. He was tall. He was Texan. He was very ostentatious, always peeling off $100 bills. Mr. MacDonald was a KKK organizer, and Centerville, Iowa was his target. His first move was to contact all the leading citizens of the town. And you'd be proud. A couple of them said, KKK, that stands for kill, crucify, and cover up with all the K's, right? There were several people in town that immediately stood up to them, and I'm sorry to say a whole lot that didn't. We know that the KKK started immediately to go to the Protestant ministers. I mean, you don't think they're going to bother with the African Americans in the Second Baptist Church. They hated them. They're not going to go to the Catholics. They hated the Catholics. They're not going to go to the Jews. They hated the Jews. So they go to every Protestant minister in this county, and every single one of them went over to the KKK, all were compromised, and kept their mouths shut, except one. And that was the Reverend Mott Sawyers at the First Baptist Church, at the First Presbyterian Church. Sorry, Baptist minister went over. Mott Sawyers was coded, his DNA was coded with abolitionist genes. His two grandfathers, Elisha Sawyers and John Miller, had come in from Tennessee to live in Unionville, and those men were part of the Underground Railroad, which is another story, fabulous story of this community. So Mott Sawyers, also by the way, had a PhD in science, and he knew all the hatreds that the KKK had. He called them a menace. He said the United States Constitution has been formed through hard work, discipline, and restraint. We believe in due process of law. This lot, they believe in midnight marches of telling people how to live their lives. And due process of law is something they don't follow. They believe in medieval trials and courts. And he never stopped. And he wasn't the only one. Jesse Beck at the Iowegian also stood up to the KKK. And one who's not given much credit, his name was Pete Agneson. He was a Belgian coal miner, and see, people down through the years have regarded him as a bit of a socialist, you know, and a rabble-rouser and a union leader. That man offered to debate the KKK everywhere they had a meeting, and the KKK would turn them down. The first time that people in the town knew the KKK were here was they put an 8-foot by 5-foot cross behind the high school and set it on fire. Half an hour later, another one on top of the cemetery hill. A week later, 3 crosses down at Cincinnati, which was the birthplace of the Underground Railroad in this town, and I've no doubt that's why they selected it. All through their time in this town, they proceeded to burn crosses on people's lawns. And what was really happening in the town was the terrible strife. People were beginning to argue with each other, but it took a while. There was a meeting in Moravia. 6,000 people turned out to that, all cheering, And the KKK were introduced by Mayor Winslet of Moravia. Down at X-Line, 3,000 people turned out. At Moulton, 2,000. But see, gradually, bit by bit, the people that had been drawn in that direction, which were the people really without education, the people who were fearful, that were numbed with terror, they began to realize what the KKK was doing in the community. The showdown would come in the city election of May the 30th, 1925. Now, there was no democratic way that anybody in this town could oppose the KKK. One of the first things they'd done was take over the Democratic Party. Then they walked into the Republican Party convention. 31 people